Welcome to round 2 of OHS Season 64. This week I am playing Drakey Poo. As a reminder of the format, this is a Bring 2 Strike 1 event, which means that we both brought 2 armies, and then there's a bit of a draft process before the game starts, where one of us has an optional strike, which removes one of the 4 armies from the draft pool, and then we draft from the remaining 4 or 3 armies. This week, we can see that Drakey Poo had the first choice of pick, and Drakey Poo chose to pick first with that, which meant that I then had an optional strike. So the question is, should I strike something here or not? If every army has a natural counter in the pool, then I would want to not strike anything, and just choose the counter to whatever gets taken. So the question is, does everything here have a natural counter or not? So we can go through it and see. I'm okay with either of my 2 armies into each other. Hopefully, I brought them both. I would hope so. So let's take a look at Drakey's armies and see what they look like into each other. The first army is 8 infantry pathfinders with 2 Jandar heroes, John Veron, and Drake, AoE Drake. And the second army is Icenic build with Iron Lich, the Wraith Riders, and Scavareth, and then Exiles of the Sundered Sea as filler. Exiles are pretty good filler, though, as it happens. I don't actually think Drakey's armies are remotely balanced into each other, looking at them. The Exiles and the Icenics just are awesome into Pathfinders, so I'm not quite sure what's going on with these armies. Basically, I think that if you're playing these 2 armies against each other, you just open Exiles into Pathfinders. You get the first shot, probably on your order marker 2, and then on the following order marker, come in with Exiles and hit them with melee attacks. And I think Exiles should be able to kill 4 or 5 Pathfinders in that opening, which means that you're able to trade your filler unit for like half of the core of their army, which is awesome. From that point forward, Necrotech Wraith Riders can move Pathfinders. And with 8 Pathfinders, they're not going to have them all next to John Veron either, especially if it's super early. Well, 8 can't fit next to John, and if you get on them real fast, you're probably going to be able to pick off Pathfinders that aren't next to Veron yet. So if you target the right ones with Exiles, you have a pretty good shot of just actually killing Pathfinders and not having too many of those attacks become wounds on John Veron. The second piece that you would come in with here is the Wraith Riders, because Wraith Riders can chain grab Pathfinders away from John Veron and then just kill them without them being able to transfer wounds over. So that's also a pretty good piece. And then basically, if Exiles and the Wraith Riders have traded reasonably well into Pathfinders, that's going to leave Iron Lich and Scavareth into Drake and John Veron. And an injected Scavareth can just brutalize those heroes. So I didn't think those 2 armies were particularly balanced into each other. So the next question then is, do either of my armies counter the stronger of those 2 fairly well? So do either of my 2 builds up here counter this Icenic with Exiles build? I don't really think they do. Let's take a look at the first one. So 2 squads of Death Chasers, Adelburn and Narak with AoE Stoneland. Very hero-centric. This army is definitely highly vulnerable to Scavareth. Scavareth can absolutely just 1 turn with 2 attacks to kill any of the heroes in my build, especially Stoneland in the opening. Like, it's very difficult for me to get value out of a Stoneland opening into a Scavareth army, where Scavareth can just wait until Stoneland comes in and then just go double attack him for 2 shots of 7 and just quite possibly kill him. That's pretty scary. Another thing here is that Exiles and Necrotech are both pretty good at killing Death Chasers, no matter what I do with Chasers in the opening, which means that it's going to be tough for me to get value out of those 6 Chasers. I'm going to have to be very, very cautious with them. And I just didn't think this was a particularly good matchup. Adelburn's okay into their heroes, but only if Scavareth is dead first, and Scavareth will probably not be dead first, so didn't seem very good to me. My other option to counter the Icenics would be the Varks. I don't think this is very good either. I think you can once again just open Exiles in the Icenic build and trade them for a lot of the Grey Spears, and there's not a ton I can do about that. And then after that, you can send in the Wraith Riders to try to finish off the Grey Spears and a few more of the squaddies, and then again set yourself up for Scavareth versus Arctos and Master of the Hunt. I mean, yeah, Master of the Hunt's going to do wounds to Scav, but Scav can do wounds to Master of the Hunt way faster. So I just don't think that's going to end up being a good spot either. So I don't think there's a natural counter to the Icenic build in the pool at all, so I ended up just striking the Icenic build with my strike. I think that once that's struck, the Pathfinders are tough for Drakey to choose because the Varks are a really natural counter to that. Varks are able to come in and pick off the Pathfinders pretty similarly to what Exiles can do in the opening. This map also has a movement glyph, which means that it's going to be really easy for my Dark Claws to be able to come in and wreak havoc into a Pathfinder pod before the Pathfinders can shoot back at them. So I didn't think Drakey could take Pathfinders there. I think between my two armies, the better choice is to take the Vark build, which is what Drakey ends up doing. So Drakey then takes my Vark army, and as I already said, I don't think Pathfinders are very good into the Varks, so that leaves me with just the option of choosing my Death Chasers into Varks, which is what I have done. Alright, let's take a look at the map for this game. So we have Valda on the bottom and Wannick on the top, with a couple of the treasure glyphs in the middle. The real question for me is, what do I open here? My plan when I built these armies was to ideally open Sonolin and try to pick off a lot of the Varks before they get engaged with the Death Chasers. The problem here with that is that Valda is really good for Varks. So it's going to be tough for Sonolin to do much to them before the Varks are able to grab Valda and just crush my start zone. Which means I don't think I can afford to open Sonolin. I think I'm going to have to open with Death Chasers and hope that they don't get obliterated on the first turn. We'll be pretty cautious with them. We'll move Adalburn out fairly aggressively, trying to take some pressure off. Realistically, I think I'm a fairly big underdog on this specific map when my opponent got to pick first between my two armies, which probably means my two armies weren't balanced quite well enough. I certainly didn't consider the exact map pool when I was building them, which could end up being a mistake. I'm not sure how many other maps have Valda in them, or this imbalanced for Varks versus my Death Chasers. The interesting question here is, do I take one order marker to move Sonolin up in round 1? I.e., do I do 1 X on Sonolin and 2-3 on Death Chasers, or do I do 1-2-3 Death Chasers X Sonolin? I'm not sure about the answer to that one. It's nice to get Sonolin up and advanced, but it also lets the Grey Spears potentially attack him. That being said, I may be okay if the Grey Spears attack him instead of going into Death Chasers, because I need Death Chasers to survive. So there's an argument to that. The other aspect of it is, do I want to have been able to move 3 of my Death Chasers heroes in round 1, i.e. go Narak, Adalburn, Adalburn? Maybe. There's a lot of benefits being able to do that. So that might sway me in the other direction. I'm not sure exactly, though. I'll have to think about it some more and see what I end up going with. Adalburn getting to one of the glyphs would be great. Narak getting to one of the glyphs would be great. I think Narak getting to one of the glyphs requires overextending Narak too much into the Grey Spears. For example, if Narak takes a glyph on order marker 1, the Grey Spears can attack Narak out of the start zone on the following order marker, so that's way too far overextended. Yeah, we'll see. It should be a fast game. Varks like to play fast. Death Chasers are already going to be battle rushing up there. Yeah, should be a fun one. I do think I'm the underdog here, army-wise, pretty significantly on this map. We'll see if we can pull off the upset. Let's hop on into the game. With the plan to open pure Death Chasers, I put Narak where he can reach here, or the main plateau in one move, and Adalburn where he can reach here. We see Drakey Poo is opening Varks, as expected, and we battle rush our Death Chasers out in the general direction of Valda. Thankfully, I lose the opening initiative, as I think I would have been in a very bad spot otherwise, and we see the 2 Vark squads develop onto the center of the plateau. However, I think there's a lot of merit to bonding with Arctos here instead of Dark Claws. I probably would have bonded with Arctos on the order marker 1 and planned to bond with Dark Claws on the order marker 2 and 3, to where I have more flexibility to adjust where the Dark Claws go after seeing how my opponents develop. Having Arctos up also gives you more potential offense for your order marker 2 if a good heighted attack presents itself, where you choose to just rush Arctos and the Greys instead of rolling up the Dark Claws at that point in time. I then advanced Adalburn, as I think I need him to be able to counter an aggressive Vark order marker 2, and slightly adjust my Death Chasers, keeping all of them except for 1 in Narak's aura, but that last one is out of range of being attacked anyways. Drakey now brings up Arctos and keeps 1 Grey Spear back while sending the other 3 in, presumably to prevent me from being able to burn the order marker 3, and we see those 3 Grey Spears kill 2 Death Chasers. I considered a lot of options on this order marker. Narak could come up to this level 3 height and attack down, which would then cover Death Chasers better as they advance. Adalburn can go to max height and kill that Grey Spear, or move over towards the Arctos pod. My overarching goal here, though, is to prevent Dark Claws from being able to attack any Death Chasers on the next order marker, So I end up moving Adelburn to max height because he blocks their development a little bit there. And I'm fine with them getting tied down to Adelburn with Adelburn on height going into round 2 if they choose to engage Adelburn. I get the first kill and then send in Death Chasers to take Valda, plus take height on the Grey Spears, and kill the first Grey, but pass on the attack on the second one, hitting Arctos instead, because I don't want that space to open up for a Dark Claw to move into. Drakey then moves up Dark Claws and hits Adelburn twice, doing 1 wound. Despite it being less total attacks though, I think bonding with Arctos here would be better, as it's an attack on a Death Chaser instead of Arctos, and you need to take out the Death Chasers first. And it also makes Adelburn not have to leave his nice perch in order to get an attack in on my ensuing order marker 3. The Grey Spears then do manage to get both kills on Death Chasers though, with that first 3v2 going through and then opening up the super juicy 5v2. I decided my best option here was to split attacks into the 2 squads, trying to make Drakey's order markers harder the following round, so Adelburn stays where he is and kills 1 Dark Claw, while the Death Chasers hit the Grey Spear and Arctos, killing the Grey and getting Arctos down to just 1 life. Going into round 2 and a massive initiative roll coming, and we both have tough order markers. I think that I need to risk the order marker 1 on Death Chasers, as when I win initiative, it's amazing. I think 2 and 3 should mostly be on Adelburn also, as if I lose initiative, that's definitely better, and if I win initiative, I'm probably in a good spot regardless, so I don't need to take a risk for the upside there. The question then is, where do I put the X on? Death Chasers, faking where my 2 is at, or Adelburn, faking where my 1 is at in case I lose initiative? In-game, I had thought that neither Dark Claw could reach the Death Chasers, so I put the X on Death Chasers, but I missed this path here through the Grey Spear. Had I seen it, I would have put the X on Adelburn instead to incentivize ignoring my Death Chasers if Drakey won initiative. Which is what happened, as I lose initiative, and we see 3 order markers on Dark Claws and 1 on Master of the Hunt. I think this means Master of the Hunt has the order marker 3 at a very high frequency, as otherwise a bluff on Grey Spears makes more sense to divert my early attacks. They bond with the Grey Spear, who moves adjacent to Arctos and kills the even Death Chaser, and the Dark Claw comes in and kills the last Death Chaser, while the other fails to wound Adelburn. My order marker 1 is now dead. Arctos and the Dark Claws then throw 14 dice into Adelburn, and he miraculously only takes 1 wound across those 3 attacks. As already mentioned, I think the order marker 3 is on Master of the Hunt, but any attack I take here will be in Master of the Hunt's range, so I elected to just stay put and hit a Dark Claw, but I miss it. It is on Master of the Hunt, who moves next to Arctos and Jungle, and does 3 wounds to Adelburn. Interesting spot for me now, as killing 1 Dark Claw is great, but so is putting 2 to 3 wounds on Master of the Hunt. I ended up deciding that Master of the Hunt was the more dangerous threat to Sonolin, so I took the LEA, which misses, to hit Master of the Hunt. I roll a nice 4 out of 6 skulls, and then Master of the Hunt laughs at my soul and blocks it with 4 out of 4 shields. See y'all, I told you Master of the Hunt was good. Going into round 3, order markers are hard again. I don't think that Sonolin can get through everything on his own, so I think that I need to gamble on initiative and have order marker 1 on Adelburn. I also put the X on Adelburn, hoping that disguising my 2 makes Drakey do something incorrect, and then I have the 2 and 3 on Sonolin. I do win initiative, and drop 4 out of 6 skulls on Master of the Hunt again. This time, though, they all go through, and he takes 4 wounds. Guess he ran out of shields after that last one. Arctos then finishes off Adelburn, and we see the Dark Claws move fairly aggressively towards my start zone. My 2 is on Sonolin, and I interpret this Dark Claw movement as meaning the order marker 2 is on them, as I don't see why the further down Dark Claw would go there otherwise. For what it's worth, I think that Dark Claw should have taken the other 4 height instead, as it's more protected and serves a better bluff purpose, as you can do that move regardless of where your order marker 2 is, and then when it's on Dark Claws, have the Grey Spear take Valda, and then they can still engage my heroes in the start zone. Either way, my upside is greatest here if I can kill both Dark Claws, and I end up deciding that it was worth the risk, given how bad it would be if Arctos and both Dark Claws got to attack me on the following order marker. So Sonolin comes in to engage the top Dark Claw and gets the kill off the 5v5, then slings a 4v4 at the other Dark Claw and kills it too. Here's a look at the probabilities of those two attacks. Not exactly probable, but very, very good when it happens. Drakey's order marker 2 was on Dark Claws, which is now dead, and it's back to me. I sent in Sonolin for the double attack on Master of the Hunt plus Arctos, killing Master of the Hunt on the first attack, but failing to kill Arctos on the second. Going into round 4, my order markers are finally easy, as I just throw them all on Sonolin, now in a pretty commanding position. I lose initiative though, and we see all the order markers on Varks split evenly between the two cards. Order marker 1 is on Greys, and Sonolin takes 2 wounds across the 2x 4v3s. I decided to attack Arctos here, as their defense is the same, and killing Arctos is guaranteed to kill at least one order marker, and it drops the Greys attack down, but I miss both attacks on Arctos. Drakey's 2 is on Greys again, and Sonolin takes another 2 wounds. This time Arctos is the only reasonable target, as I know he has the order marker 3, and I do get the kill, with Arctos' spirit going on Guilty, but then miss the follow-up attack on the Grey Spear. Drakey's 3 is now dead, so it's back to me. I have Sonolin take the Elia here to go and hit Guilty. Interesting spot, but I like hitting Guilty here because Wannick is on this map, and it gives me a way to win against a 1-life Grey, but less so against a 2-life Guilty. And Guilty has the upside of getting 2 attacks per turn in, now with 9 range, which is especially useful into Narak, if it gets to that point. I do kill Guilty here on the first attack, but then miss the follow-up attack on the Grey Spear. Going into round 5 now, I put the 1 and X on Sonolin with the 2 and 3 on Narak. My thinking was that it would take 2 order markers for Narak to reach Wannick, so I could take the free attack with Sonolin first, especially if I won initiative. I lose a nit, but Sonolin survives the 4v4. He then flies in and finishes off the Grey Spear, ending the game. Close game. Could have turned very drastically at a few different points. It does reinforce my thinking, though, that my Vark build is stronger, as I feel like if I'd won opening initiative, I was screwed, but I didn't have that same level of upside for when I lost opening initiative with the Death Chasers army. Still, I like the armies, as order marker decisions, especially in rounds 2 and 3, are quite hard and require a lot of calculated risks. And I move on to 2-0 in the event.